Additional issues for the International Court of Justice, 2 April 2021. By Anna von Reitz. Text-to-voice synthesis provided by Vidnami. Collapse of ownership interests. Please turn your attention to a small and seemingly unimportant part of the three original federal constitutions issued in our country as part of our organic law. Article 1 Section 8, Clause 17. All three constitutions, the American Federal Constitution granted to the States of America, the British Territorial version, and the Papist Municipal version, all bear witness to this provision. It allows the members of Congress to act as the plenary government of Washington, D.C., the then new federal capital. The idea was that everyone would have an equal interest in providing a beautiful and politically neutral setting to conduct business and that the members of Congress could be trusted to run a city government. They were allowed to do this as a plenary oligarchy. But which Congress was so favored? We know for sure that it was the American Federal Congress operating as the Federal Republic and doing business as the States of America, because it first appears in the 1787 Federal Constitution. This power to run the city of Washington, D.C., as a plenary oligarchy was not a responsibility vouchsafed to the members of the Territorial Congress, even though it stands on the record of all three constitutions. In the wake of the Civil War, the members of the Territorial Congress usurped their actual employers and continued to operate as if they were the Federal Congress. They reorganized the City of Washington, District of Columbia, and placed its administration under the auspices of a municipal corporation, creating the Municipality of Washington, D.C., and adopting the political status of an independent, international city-state, complete with their own flag. But they never had any authority or material right or interest to do this. The governance of the City of Washington, District of Columbia, like all other delegated duties belonging to the Federal Republic, reverted to the delegator, our Federation of States, by operation of law, upon the incapacity of the Federal Republic. Those powers, contrary to some popular thought, did not just drift around in the sky or on the sea, subject to salvage by unscrupulous employees. They returned to the delegator, the United States of America, defined as our unincorporated Federation of States. We remind the court that all of this skullduggery is taking place in the realm of international and global affairs, in breach of trust and treaty, by the other principals who have always owed us good faith and service. We remind the court that the municipal government is bound by the Roman civil law, and under Roman civil law, this fraud promoting substitution of foreign congresses for the American Federal Congress, vitiates everything it touches. We further remind the court that the territorial government is obligated on a worldwide basis to prosecute piracy, and that the applicable maxim of law is that possession by pirates does not change ownership. And we are the rightful owners, the delegators, who have suffered inland piracy at the hands of our own foreign employees and subcontractors. That they were paying themselves out of the receipts of their deceit and continuing to operate as if they were our loyal employees at the same time only makes the crime that much more diabolical and damaging. Operating as the United States of America, Incorporated, a Scottish chartered commercial corporation published in 1868, gained access to our credit and assets under similar constructive fraud and similar names deceit. They transported our gold and silver offshore, purportedly for safekeeping, prior to bankrupting this corporation 1906-1907. They also used our money to buy large land acquisitions, including Alaska, Hawaii, the Philippine Islands, and more. In 1870, they began chartering corporations for us and in our names. We maintain that as our intellectual property was exercised to do this, and as our delegated powers were usurped to do this, and as all of it was accomplished in our names and via abuse of our assets, all right, title, and interest vests in our principals, the American states and people. The first bankruptcy proved so profitable for some and so damaging to others that we all fought the First World War. Instead of repenting their evil and seeking the peace we all deserve, the perpetrators booted up another round of the same fraud scheme, took title to our land as chattel backing their operations, and fronted another deceptively named corporation, the United States of America, Inc. They ran up our credit to the zenith, and again, sought bankruptcy protection for themselves and offered our states and people as the purported secondaries and co-signers responsible for paying their bills. And again, we were all obliged to fight the Second World War as a result of their criminal activities and breach of trust. To obtain the credit for this boondoggle, they claimed that we were all municipal citizens of the United States, slaves and chattel owned by the above-referenced international city-state government. They issued bonds on our labor as indentured servants and also issued child labor contracts. And this is again, another gratuitous lie and self-interested fraud scheme. We need not fight World War III. Instead, the courts of international and global jurisdiction and the people of this country and the people of the world must stand united against this criminality and lawlessness and put an end to it. This is not a matter of politics, not a quarrel based on race, religion, or anything of that nature at all. It's crime, pure and simple, which is owed universal prosecution and civil awards and damages to the victims. Our actual government is now in session for the first time in decades, and is bringing this entire circumstance forward into the public cognizance of the American people and the international and global communities. We do not wish to be associated with these racketeers and pirates, and it stands upon the record that we have been their primary victims throughout. We claim back all our intellectual and material assets, our good names, our powers, our land, our gold, our silver, our soil, our lives, our bodies, our DNA, our very souls, all of which these liars have claimed to own and control, and have bought, sold, and traded upon without the knowledge or agreement of the actual owners. We have declared peace in our country, and we have informed the Pope and virtually all other principals on earth of our will to have our erstwhile employees consigned and committed to peace. They have no right nor any reason to promulgate any form of war on our land and soil, nor any authority to engage in mercenary wars for profit in our names, nor any right entitling them to access credit and material assets belonging to us to pay for anything but the enumerated services we have explicitly agreed to as part of the constitutional process. We further maintain that it is the duty of the other principals and their instruments and agents to abide by our public law, to which everyone inhabiting our soil is bound as a public duty. This idea that we are absent and that our public law is lapsed is in the self-interest of criminals and is purely absurd. If this comes to anything but a logical and just resolution, it is upon the reputation of the Court of International Justice, upon the officers of Interpol, upon the magistrates of the Holy Roman Empire, upon the Vatican Chancery Court, and upon the United Nations Organization, the World Bank, and others who must otherwise admit to being accomplices to these crimes for failure to resist their continuance. We are currently being accused of criminal activity for bringing these matters to the attention of the international and global authorities. We have done so after exhausting all avenues of good sense and liability within the corporate government, and have served due notice and due process against the same as part of our public duty and as part of our own responsibility to avoid liability for these crimes. The perpetrators continue to pretend that we are combatants in their fictional war on terror, while they persist in acting as the primary terrorists wreaking damage at home and abroad. They also persist in promoting the idea that this country is at war, when in fact, it has been owed peace ever since President Andrew Johnson declared it. They persist in deliberately misidentifying and mischaracterizing us, Americans, as citizens of both the territorial United States and the municipal United States, when in fact we are the population of the United States, to which they all owe good faith and service. We pray for permanent protective injunctions from every court having jurisdiction over these matters on earth, for support from all people of conscience worldwide, for an opening of the books and accounts to determine possession of the lawful ownership interests and intellectual property rights that have been purloined, a correction of the political statuses presumed to exist, and the loyal support of our own military forces to resolve this mess without further violence or pretense of war. Anna Maria Riesinger, Fiduciary, the United States of America.